Fox Sage, a concept commonly explored in What If and fanfic alike. But what if Naruto, instead of learning or achieving this as a form, pioneered its creation among a type of fox people? What if he not only gained this, but had used it to his fullest advantage within the Chunin exams? And what if other characters were affected by such a minor change as him interacting with the civilization, if you so will call it, of foxes? Well, that's what we're going to be going over today in part 6 of What If Naruto had a Fox Sage mode. And I would like to say that I want to give a shout out to our members, and also we do got some new merch. Thank you to Streamlabs for hosting our merch, and if you want to not only buy our merch but possibly create your own, the links will be in the description. And yeah, without further ado, roll that intro. Team 7 now having defeated Zabuza and Haku, and Sasuke even having gotten a new weapon, something that could make him stand out as his own person, would stay to oversee the bridge. At least that's what Naruto and Kyuubi would do. Kakashi and Sasuke are off somewhere training the Executioner's Blade. Obviously both of them are really interested in what's the difference between the Executioner's Blade and just a normal sword. Obviously, chakra metal, letting them actually, condense chakra and control them, manipulate it much easier, with Kakashi even being willing to use lightning energy along with it, and teaching Sasuke how to do it. He would not be worried about teaching this to Naruto and Kyuubi, as they have physically shown him to be capable of doing this already, so teaching Sasuke this does not leave any part of neglect from him. Naruto and Kyuubi would actually have a bunch of intercation with not only the bridge builders, but people in the town, helping them get back on their feet after the entire Yato situation. Naruto and Kyuubi's fur clones obviously help as well, and eventually when they leave, the villagers feel indebted not to the entirety of Team 7, but to Naruto and Kyuubi, who weren't in the forest the whole time training, actually actively helping, calling this bridge the Great Fox Bridge. Team 7 would now head back to the Leaf. They would be notified that usually missions would be forced for the next 5 months, but a special event known as the Chunin exams happened. About a month has passed since they had come out of the academy, and every 6 months the Chunin exam is hosted. One the day before the academy starts, and the other 6 months in between the start of the two academy years. So Kakashi would present them with an opportunity. Even though 5 months is left, he feels they could cram a lot of training in. He really does want his genin to move on to the next tier of shinobi before anyone else in their generation does. He knows Guy's team, who is a year older, will be participating, so he knows he'll have to push them, to say the very least. And for some reason, when bringing this up, Naruto and Kyuubi seem kind of regressive. Sasuke is eager to not only learn new techniques, but to master his newfound weapon. Kakashi is eager to teach Sasuke, and Naruto and Kyuubi were already keen of this, that Kakashi is forming a connection to Sasuke, but that's not the point they're getting to. After having gotten back, they had returned and had been informed that as the new royal couple, as they're seen, the two people that are seen as the upmost within the Fox Kingdom, they would be forced to return to the Fox Village and stay there for a few months, to not only set in stone the fact that they are the new leaders of the Fox people, but also to set an example within the summoning world. Even though the foxes themselves do not have a realm they call home, they still have a high stature within the summoning animals, so them presenting their new nobles and royals would be a thing they'd have to do. Naruto, and Kyu at this time would have no choice. They'd have to return, leaving Sasuke to train with Kakashi. This is where we actually get to start on the Naruto Sage Mode part. It's been 6 parts and we haven't really gotten into this, and the reason for that is the setup to creating this Sage Mode. At this point we can actually get to mass progressing the story, as we're gonna have our first time skip. We're not gonna go through traditional time skip where we just skip over everything, but I will periodically explain what is happening. Our first start would be them arriving at the village, having an encounter with Kyuu's father, Kyuton, where he would explain the entire situation in mass detail. They would both be given new garb, obviously that of royals, meaning kimono. Naruto would insist to have at least some form of protection, so both of them do have some kimono battle armor. This is not necessarily traditional, but Naruto could not be convinced otherwise. He would also be allowed to keep at least a single kunai on him the entire time. Kyuton knows that there isn't really anything against weapons, since the Toad always seems to bring theirs, so why not? He would then prepare for travel. We have a small skip to a summoning or to a meeting between tribes where 2 snakes, 2 toads, then Kyuton, Naruto, and Kyu. These are most of the summonings. The reason that the slug isn't here is because she's just the one being within that contract. There's no real point for her to be here. Some other minor tribes like wolves, dogs, cats will all appear, but they just fall under the jurisdiction of the foxes, since the foxes is the largest summoning animal group, or at least the most powerful, that don't have their own home dimension, so they speak on behalf of all these. Obviously, each and every summoning would reveal their new heir, and for Kyuton, he had 2. Kyu and Naruto. At this point, people would start questioning it, since the only time 2 rulers would occur is with the marriage. And even though there was mass debate, they wouldn't be allowed to leave the summoning realm until Naruto and Kyu were married. And believe it or not, Naruto and Kyu weren't against this. They pretty much grew up together and do have emotions for each other, if they'd like to admit it or not. So it being said that the only way they're leaving as the royals and not just as plain nobles is if they get married. Obviously the rest of the Fox tribe was there, or at least the rest of the new generation, but they weren't anything to name since they were only being classed as nobles. Naruto and Kyu, having been accepted this, would then have all the other summons, not on their word, but in the word of the elders or the previous generation of leaders of the summonings, would say that all the summonings are to stay in this place, as they will arrange a marriage for the Foxkin. At this point, they would not know Naruto is partially fox, or partially human, or majority human, not really being a fox, but having the 9 tails inside of him. At least all except the toads. The toads' natural sensing ability helped them get past the scent of a fox and then feel not only a human but a beast inside of there. And for some reason, most of the summonings felt intimidated not only by Kyuu's ferocity, but by the 9 tails energy just leaking off of Naruto. They could feel it. They could feel its aura. They could feel it emanating. Naruto and Kyu in this time would hang around the Frog Kingdom, because they currently are on Mount Nyaboku for this meeting. Mount Nyaboku is usually the host, since the toads are usually neutral in most affairs, at least when it doesn't come to being summoned. They would have a grand feast that night, obviously consisting of bugs. Most of the summonings don't really like this feast, but Naruto and Kyu, they would at least give it a chance. They would try the bugs. Come on, don't put it beneath them. So they would try the bugs and would find to actually be tasty. So they'd actually dig in, putting a smile on some of the Toads' faces, knowing that there's at least a competent pair of leaders out there. Obviously, they didn't expect 2 children to be these new leaders, but so be it. At this point, Naruto and Kyu would eventually leave the feast, not really needing to stay there any longer since they had more than filled up and needed some fresh air. When they make their way outside, they saw one of the Toadkin, or more specifically the Toad boss, Gamabunta, teaching his 2 sons. They would stare across the balcony they were standing on to look upon a field of spikes. On these spikes they see platforms, and on top of them standing 2 small frogs, or 2 small toads, Gamakichi and his brother Gamatatsu. They would be currently learning the process of gathering nature energy. They, yes, did have the ability to naturally gather nature energy, but if they needed it at an accelerated rate during battle or something, this is the best way. A moment of stillness and silence. When those of frogkin are able to master sage art, even a moment would be enough to nearly refill their senjutsu reserves. But for human, this is impossible, at least with their form of gathering nature energy. Naruto and Kyuu's keen sense of hearing would have them hear all this. Gamabunta had noted them there, but would have assumed they wouldn't be able to hear. It was quite a distance after all, so he did not mind teaching his sons. His sons, after a while, would give up, but over the coming days, he would persist. Every day when this would occur, Naruto and Kyu would stand on that balcony, listening to the tips that Gamabunta gave. When Naruto had a revelation. What if we could gather nature energy? Not in the same sense, of course, earning a gasp from Kyu to say the least. He'd explain. What if they were able to gather nature energy while still and then start storing it? Somehow using this nature energy as a beacon to draw more in. Obviously this would be a craft far from perfected, at least to what his knowledge would say. He would ask if she would be in on it. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this part, guys. I really do hope y'all enjoyed the setup to starting the Sage mode. Next part, we're gonna properly go over that. We're also gonna go over Sasuke's training, and after that, the entire series of Naruto will change, and I really do think y'all will enjoy it. So without further ado, these videos are edited by our boy Steak, and our intros and outros were created by the Dragon Lord. So if you haven't yet, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, and hit that bell notification to be notified of future uploads. So without further ado, peace.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Subscribe for more. Yada yada does it.